Good afternoon to you, and we start with a live shot looking over downtown Buffalo. A few light flakes flying, and we'll probably deal with some flurries for the rest of the day and into this evening at times. Hello, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Stanonis.
And I'm Lauren Maroney. Hi.
Welcome back to Beyond the Forecast, Storm Team 2, as we continue to take through the forecast now, next, and beyond.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the weekend, yesterday it was pretty mild to start.
Even with the rain, yeah.
Yeah, the temperatures were really on the rise. Some spots hit like the 50s. Not so much today.
No, we're back in it, at least though highs in the 30s, so that's not too bad. So even though we still have these little dips, we're still going in the right direction overall.
Yeah, but you are tracking some snow that we're going to be dealing with before
we get warm again.
Yeah, I know. Very exciting.
Just some nuisance snow, though.
Yeah.
It's very minor. We'll just have some scattered activity, as you can see right now on the radar shot, and cloudy conditions. We'll continue to have really this nuisance snow showers moving through this activity. Buffalo, downtown, we have just some light flurries. Picks up a little bit, some light snow in places like Niagara Falls, Wheatfield, Bransonville, Lewiston, also Niagara on the Lake, as you head along the Lake Ontario shoreline as well, into Newfane and Olcott and Wilson. We also have Ransomville, Cambria, and Newfane, as you can see, Wheatfield, Grand Island, North Tonawanda, also dealing with these light snow showers into Fort Erie, downtown, more flurries there, into Lackawanna, East Aurora, Hamburg, Boston, Holland along the 16 there, 219 down into Concord, and as we extend north again, Carleton, Ridgeway, Shelby, and Clarendon, and a few of these light snow showers into Leroy. South we go, southern Erie County, a few of these scattered snow showers, and along the Lake Erie shoreline, we have Evans, Brant down the 90 into Hanover, Forestville, Boston, Dunkirk, Westfield, Ripley, Mayville, all some very light snow showers. So we'll continue to track that for today and into this evening. A little batch of snow dropping down. So we're going to see that, at least though, high pressure off to our west behind it will allow for that drying trend, even some sunshine for tomorrow, but still that cooler flow of air from the northwest. So we'll have in that. These temperatures right now, we're in the low 30s for our northern zone. 33 for Buffalo, Grand Island, into Niagara Falls, Lockport, Medina, 31. And we're even in the 20s for areas south, mainly some mid to upper 20s. Java, 28. Franklinville, 25. Ellicottville, 27. 26 for Olean. 25 for Wellsville. So we have a chilly day for today and into tonight. At least those wind speeds, basically 10 miles or less. 10 miles per hour or less, and even 13 for Wellsville, but not too much to talk about in terms of the wind department. It's bringing the wind chills down just a little. You can see in the 20s for most of our area and some teens as you head south. Overall, though, not too bad, especially for March standards. Highs today will be mid 30s for the most part. Some areas of mainly light nuisance snow showers, and clouds will be sticking around into tonight. We'll have low temperatures in those 20s for most areas. Future look showing some of those scattered snow showers, nuisance into this evening. Then we dry up, even some clearing skies. We'll have some sunshine at times on Tuesday. And then we'll have a few clouds rolling through for Tuesday night, but we're dry for both commutes. Wednesday, same thing, starting out fine, dry. We'll have just clouds increasing, thickening up. Evening commute looks fine on Wednesday, and then we'll have some rain moving in. Looks like late evening and overnight rain showers with milder air coming in, maybe into very early Thursday morning. But looks like by Thursday commute time, we should be drying things up. A little dry break in there before we track a system for later Thursday. So there's that brief one coming through for some rain for later Wednesday night into very early Thursday. We get that dry gap, and then we'll track another system dropping down, bring in some more rain for later Thursday night. So we are chilly right now. Then we're going to be milder for much of the rest of the week. So any of that cold air staying well north, and we'll have that milder air pumping in for Wednesday and especially Thursday before we do get cooler air dropping down, at least for late weekend into a portion of the weekend. So today we're basically in those 30s for those highs, lows dropping down into the 20s. Note tomorrow morning, though, could even see some upper teens for areas south, and then we're bumping up the temperatures on Tuesday. well into the 30s, and then some 40s, nicely in those 40s for Wednesday, even near 50, and even around 50 for some spots inland. And then Thursday, we're nicely in the 50s, even nearing 60 for some locations, especially south. So that's some good news. So really just that chill continuing into tomorrow morning, and also those wind chill map we still have to bring, with even some of these wind chill values in the mid to upper teens for many locations, what it feels like as you head out the door tomorrow morning. So note that, but at least those highs for Tuesday afternoon, we're getting closer to average, near 40, nicely in those 30s. And then we're above average, near 50 on Wednesday, nicely above average by 10+ degrees once again on Thursday. We do cool off briefly. Note cool, not cold. We have highs back to those 30s for Friday and Saturday, about 10 degrees below average. But at least we'll have some of that sunshine Tuesday, and mainly dry conditions for Wednesday. The rain still looks like it'll be arriving late night. So we'll have some of those nuisance snow showers the rest of today and into this evening. We'll have low temperatures, mid to upper 20s. So we're trending a little below average with the highs and lows into your Tuesday. At least we have some sunshine for Tuesday. High temperatures near 40. And then for Tuesday night, temperatures comfortable enough in the upper 20s, back to average. As to start your Wednesday off, warmer air continues to flow in, will be dry. And just those clouds continuing to increase, high temperatures also increasing near 50. Sunrise Wednesday, by the way, 7:09 a.m. and sunset just after 7:30 p.m. So very nice. That rain will come in after the sunset, after the evening commute on Wednesday. And then we'll have some more rain later Thursday, mainly drying up Friday. Then this weekend, overall fine. We're just going to be cooler in those 30s for those highs Friday and Saturday. Maybe a nuisance snow shower Saturday. Otherwise, we'll have a mix of clouds and sunshine. Looks pretty good. Lows do drop down to those 20s for Saturday night and to start your Sunday. So just note a little chilly start. But Sunday, it looks like even pretty decent conditions, nicely in those 40s. And also partly to mostly sunny skies. So right now, it does look like overall the weekend does look pretty nice, and especially for Sunday as well. And then as we look into Monday, we'll have temperatures increasing even more. 50s, mainly dry, but we'll maybe track your early week system, but we're still many days out. But notice it will be kind of up and down with our temperatures over the next week, but mainly quiet for the most part. Just that nuisance rain for Wednesday night, and then another round for later Thursday, maybe a little wintry mix for at least the end of it as we head into that cooler air for overnight and early Friday morning, but we'll continue bringing updates on that. I wanted to note though, even though we are going to kind of be a little up and down and even little cool spells here and there over the next week we do start to see these temperature trends increasing once again. So that's some good news. And the Climate Prediction Center looking even further right now, even though it looks like still maybe up and down a little at times into April, May does look like it's shaping up to be milder than average, at least a decent amount of it potentially extending into summer. So that's some good news. Warmth is on the way. And of course, as we know, that's because the sun angle too continues to increase, being higher and higher in the sky. We just had that spring equinox Friday. So sun angle then was 47 degrees above the horizon. So more powerful sun rays. And we continue to have the sun angle increasing as we head into summer solstice, or even reaching locally 71 degrees above that horizon. So we like all that warmth at the surface because of that higher sun angle. So spring is here, and you already start to see, because of the higher sun angle each day, the plants are reacting. We have already some blooms out there. These are usually the first of the season. The snowdrops in our neighborhood are now coming out, and temperatures are continuing to increase, those averages at least for those highs and those lows. So by week's end, we'll have highs and average mid 40s, 46, low at 30. And we're continuing the warmth and the longer daylight hours now that we've had that spring equinox. And we are going to continue to have the sunrise even closer to 7 a.m. as we head into the weekend, and sunset continue to be beyond later and later past 7:30 p.m. And I love this map, Lauren, that you made. This is the spring highs continuing to show that nice increase. I mean, by end of April, look at that. We're already those highs in the 60s on average, and end of May, 70s. Oh, so nice. Even our lows continuing to increase nicely. By the end of each month, we can see that really nice upward trend, and we're feeling that even though we are getting these little dips at times. No worries, because in general, we'll still going in the right direction and we're going upward.
Yeah, actually, I mean, looking at this week, yeah, like today's a little bit on the colder side. Yeah, it will be cooler on Friday and Saturday, but things are really starting to look better.
Yeah, and in our dips, now we're not getting dips with these highs in the teens or the 20s. Now our dips are 30s and then eventually it'll be 40s.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're talking about the dips, and yeah, I mean, we don't like waking up in the 20s or with highs in the 30s, but I mean, averages are still only in the 40s for this time of year. I think we all, once we hit March and April, we want it just to be like the 60s and 70s, but even right now today, we're not that far below average, and you do have days below and above average, so it's really not that bad, and we're getting better.
And temperatures above the freezing mark, that always just feels oh so nice.
Absolutely.
And with the sunshine too, which we'll have more days like that. Sunny skies and overall quiet. I mean, this next week, no weather impact alerts. We're just going to be watching a couple of those rounds of rain briefly.
Yeah, and you know, we are kind of talking about those warmer temperatures that comes with blooming trees and pollen, and I'm going to talk all about that coming up after this.
Welcome back. Okay, Lauren, I feel like I'm already starting to get allergies. 'Tis the season.
I know, I've been sneezing a lot. I think it's allergies. I guess I hope that's better than being sick, but I mean, I'm not really looking forward to allergy season, but we're gonna talk about it because it is important. That vernal equinox was on Friday, so we had our first weekend of spring. It had some mild temperatures, it had those spring showers, but of course with spring, we do start to warm up, and with that warming up, that vegetation does start blooming, and we're gonna have to deal with that pollen. Hours of daylight on the equinox were 12 hours and 9 minutes. Today it is 12 hours and 18 minutes. We're gaining about 3 minutes of daylight every single day. And you know, Jen, I know you love this graphic, so I had to bring it back. So our temperatures, yeah, they are steadily on the rise, but we've actually in general had a relatively mild March, and I'm going to show you that in a moment. But let's take a look at kind of what allergy season does look like. We call it allergy season. It's kind of allergy seasons. We have spring allergies, we have summer allergies, and there are even early autumn allergies. So kind of the big one, the one that I know definitely gets to me, and I think it's what we all think of when it comes to allergy season, is the tree pollen, because that's what really starts to peak here in Western New York, especially around April. I mean, obviously, if it's a very warm March, you can start to feel that in March. Again, we were talking about sneezing. That tree pollen really does start to peak around that springtime. And then as you get into summer, you start to have that grass pollen, which does peak around that June time. So if you have both tree and grass pollen allergies, that can be especially bad when you're into late May and early June. You're kind of dealing with both of those. And then as we head into late summer and early fall, you have the ragweed pollen, and that kind of stays prevalent until we have that first freeze. So pollen season really has a lot to do with our temperatures. We like to talk about the seasons, you know, with the vernal equinox. That has to do with the position of the sun over our area and how many hours of daylight we're getting. The trees don't really care about that. They're not taking cues from the sun. I mean, yes, the sun does make them warmer, but they're really taking cues from the temperatures. And even though we're a little bit on the cool side today, it's been a pretty mild March. I kind of want to draw your attention to the end of that first week and then that second week of March. I mean, 61, 72, 50, 67, 61, 64. That was a pretty warm stretch. People like to call it fake spring. If you want to be more positive, you call it bonus spring. But that's kind of some type of things that, you know, the trees especially do respond to. They're seeing those warmer temperatures, and, you know, to the trees, that cues that it's kind of time to start growing and pollinating. So we did have that, and, you know, that's probably why some of us are kind of starting to feel that pollen, even though it still doesn't really peak until around April. So looking at the average for our highs, this year in 2026, just for the month of March, our highs were averaging at 47 degrees. That is through yesterday, so through the 22nd. But what should be normal, the average of all the highs of the days from the 1st through the 22nd, should be about 40 degrees. So this is a pretty significantly above average March so far, and that is contributing to maybe a bit of an earlier pollen season. Kind of taking a look at the snowfall, the monthly average, again, to date should be just shy of a foot. We have under 5 inches, so we are 7 inches below what would be average. We haven't really had any major snow events in March. I mean, our biggest event was when we got just a little over 3 inches in Buffalo. So really not in terms of snow, but it's not for lack of precipitation. We've had quite a few soggy days. I mean, just yesterday we got just shy of half of an inch. I mean, on the 5th, we had over half an inch, over an inch on the 11th, close to an inch on the 20th. So it's been a pretty soggy March. We have just about 3 3/4 inches when around this time, 2 inches is the average that we would have to date. Now, taking a look at when we typically see our last measurable snowfall, that's when things start getting cold. On average, that should be around mid-April is the last time we will record measurable snow here in Buffalo. The earliest it has ever been has been February. The latest has been May, and last year we were pretty close to around what that average is, around April 16th. But now I'm going to kind of take a look at the lows. So our average lows for this time of year is 28 degrees. Obviously, that is below freezing. And when we're talking about freezing, that's pretty big when it comes to tree growth, because you want those highs to be above freezing so things aren't freezing and dying overnight. And we don't start to see those average overnight lows getting above freezing until we hit April, because March 31st, that average overnight low is still 31. But as we head into April, then those do go up. Obviously, this is just speaking with averages. You can still get freezes much later into the season. Our average final freeze, so in theory, beyond that point, that's kind of when the growing season starts, is April 26th. So late April, the earliest we've ever on our recorded history seen the final freeze has been March 31st. So we hold on to that those freezing temperatures at least through March. And again, that's just the earliest. The latest, though, has been late May. That's why typically they tell you don't start planting your gardens until after Mother's Day, after Memorial Day, because you can still get those freezes. And last year, a little bit earlier than average, around that time that we had that last snow, April 17th. But the seasons are getting warmer. So this is thanks to Climate Central. The seasons are all trending upward. I mean, winter, this is for Buffalo specifically, is trending a good 4 degrees above what average temperatures typically are in winter. Spring, over 2 degrees, summer, 2 degrees, and fall, about 3 degrees. So all of us are trending warmer. And specifically across the country, the fastest warming season kind of out west. You have some areas with spring in Oregon and Washington. It's summer. For Montana, Wyoming, and Colorado, it is autumn. But for the rest of the country, yeah, our quickest warming season is winter. And that's important because those final freezes are happening earlier and earlier, and that extends the growing season, and we start to see those first leaves of spring earlier. For us in Buffalo, over the past about 50 years, we're about 3 days earlier when it comes to seeing those first leaves of spring, and that really starts to affect us when it comes to the growing season and thus having a longer allergy season. So the growing season, again, we kind of mark it from like that final freeze to then that first freeze of autumn. On average, over about 55 years, that growing season has extended about 20 days. So those 20 days are 20 more days where we will continue to be dealing with those allergies. And that's just the growing season. Of course, because we are talking warmer temperatures, those warmer temperatures, we have more CO2 in the atmosphere. That also encourages the creation of more pollen, which does make your allergies worse. If you think your allergies have been getting worse, they probably have been. Again, I bring this back up just because I didn't know how far into this I would be able to get. But again, it's 3 whole seasons that do start to push earlier and earlier depending on how those temperatures sort of sort out for the season. And then people kind of always like to ask, you know, when during the day does that pollen peak? I read kind of some conflicting ideas. Some say it peaks around 5 a.m. and 10 a.m. Others say, you know, it's obviously worse in the afternoon. Pretty much when you're in pollen season, it's bad and you really don't want to be outside. It can get on your clothes, and if you don't wash that, if you don't wash your hair, it's just going to stick on you and you're going to be really suffering. One thing I wanted to bring up, so we always talk about the pollen on our cars. I have a white car, and I know my car does tend to look like this in the spring. You get that yellowy, greenish film on your car. That pollen actually tends to be from the conifers, so like pine trees, firs. That is actually not the pollen that we're worried about. This pollen is a lot bigger, so it doesn't really travel much with the wind at all. It kind of just falls where it is and sticks on things, so we see it, but it's really the pollen that stays in the air on those dry and windy days. That is when the pollen is at its worst. So it's pretty bad. So the biggest culprits are oak, birch, cedar, and maple, which are trees that we do have in our area. And these are the ones that have those smaller pollen molecules that really just stay in the air and can make us pretty miserable. Again, on those warm, dry, and windy days, that is when that pollen does feel the worst. When we get a good rain, that's always very nice because it does kind of clear that pollen out of the air. We get some relief, but those good rainfalls are a bit of a double-edged sword because that rainfall does then fuel the trees.
Keep growing.
And then they produce more pollen. So it's like, you can't really win.
All that data really lines up because it does seem like when you look at that, we are getting these shorter and more hit and miss ski seasons, but longer growing seasons.
Yeah.
So it all makes sense.
So we're going to kind of take a look at maybe what our pollen season is going to look like this year as we head into April.
So yes, March and April, we're up and down with the temperatures, and I like how you're pointing out, it's like sometimes people might say fake spring, other bonus spring, or if you want somewhere in the middle, it's just spring.
Yeah, it's
transition
just spring,
time.
especially, I mean, if we're talking March, that is meteorologically spring.
Yeah, I know, and when you think of it, it's a transitional season,
Yeah.
so you will sometimes have a little bit of winter and sometimes a little bit of summer mixed in there as we get toward summer.
Especially when you talk about like that seasonal lag, we are pulling more winter into us than we are kind of that spring. So I kind of wanted to take a look at, what the next couple days are going to look like in terms of maybe how we're going to do in terms of that pollen. So obviously we were talking that warm, dry, windy weather tends to make things most miserable when it comes to pollen. And looking at the 8 to 14 day outlook, I know we love talking about, those warmer temperatures. We really want those warmer temperatures, and we do look primed over the next 2 weeks to be able to be seeing those above average temperatures. But of course, especially heading into spring, now that it is spring, we are looking at the potential for, conditions being favorable for more of that tree growth. And in terms of precipitation, it looks like we are having a decent chance of seeing maybe a little bit above average precipitation, which is kind of a continuation of what we've been seeing with the precipitation over the course of the month. So, I mean, maybe some chances to help wash that out, but also chances to help those trees grow. And on those days when it's not raining, being kind of on the miserable side for a little bit.
And I like how you pointed out too, we're actually seeing all the seasons shifting a little bit in terms of especially summer into fall. I mean, September into October are like sometimes just summer-like. Beautiful. All right, we'll be back tomorrow, both Lauren and I, at 12:30 p.m. We'll see you then.